Good morning. It is, what day is it? Tuesday, April 7th, 7:25 a.m. I've been up for a long while. I had a short sleep and I had a lot of activity, a lot of connection because I felt safe, and so I fell into a deep sleep. And I've been honoring so much of what I'm here to do, my work, the process, how it's getting done. But I thought I should make myself a little progress report, since that is kind of the nature of this work. Is it fails us when we don't really get to see the steps that we have taken, because in a trauma wired brain, we want to forget the things that made us uncomfortable and just remember the things that made us feel good. And then unfortunately, because we've got this really chaotic wiring around feeling good hormonally, feeling good consciously, and then feeling good unconsciously, it becomes a bit of a shit show when we don't give ourselves tools to kind of anchor in along the way and witness our journey. And so then there is this give me 1 second. This thing is trying to connect to the internet while I'm trying to record a video, such as the enmeshment and entanglement that our technical resources have us linked in, whether we have voluntarily consented to it or implied consent to it. But here we are. I'm living in this reality, and the reality is I need to document my work, and paper and notebooks and sticky notes have limitations as security protocols, and also limitations to longevity of my work. So here we are. We're doing both analog and digital recording of everything for perpetuity, for copyright purposes, and for trademark purposes, because we need to respect other people's intellectual property and honor their contributions, but also honor that we are generating our own understanding from our own experience. And then feeding into the language part of my work, which is how we articulate, how we present ourselves, how we identify ourselves, how we relate to ourselves and others, depending on the circumstances, and honoring ourselves. So there's a lot kind of packed in there, all at once, clinically, technically, workshop-wise, within ourselves. But anyways, you can always come back to my work at any time, whenever you need it. But I thought I would have fun with, I've been playing with this reality concept, using movie references, using whatever I'm coming across in daily life to create my work, create my art, and inspire my research. And so this is that experiential learning component of my work, alongside the somatic rewiring work, alongside finding real work in real life, teams to support through either employment or contract work. Anyways, so I'm working on my experiential resume, and I'm really leaning into the tactile, physical, like, movement of our connected muscles, and the actions and the thoughts and the activities that we're working in, to create more anchored presence in our physiology in a world where there's so much stimulus for somebody whose nervous system gets overwhelmed. or whose nervous system is really hyperactive and can make a lot of connections through a lot of series of things all at once, which then taxes the nervous system and starts to disorder it in different ways. So anyways, I'm making a lot of progress. I want to walk you through kind of my boards. I'll get some lights going in the room. I'm reorganizing how I work in this space just because the need requires it for the seasons. How I use the space has to change. The types of activities I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be doing a lot more cooking, a lot more gardening, a lot more. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in different spaces, a lot of activities outdoors. And so that requires me to be more organized. So this is the product development piece, the executive management piece that I want to talk about, that somatic CEO piece that I won't be getting into detail until later in 2027, probably, maybe even into 2028. But all of the work is happening behind the scenes. So I'm bringing you into how do I articulate my work? Because everybody wants the elevator pitch, and my work is so complex and so enmeshed in our everyday lives that I refuse the elevator pitch. I refuse to make myself shiny and glossy so people will look over here for 5 seconds, because that's just irrelevant noise that I want no part of. And so when I talk about this experiential resume, I'm really thinking about how do I let go of that fear-based narrative and that belittling narrative that comes from power and control dynamics, in the aim to get me to buy into something that is not what I'm experiencing in my reality, or perhaps the reality of the tools and resources that I have available to me that, is real for that person, but is not real for me in my reality experientially. And so now I'm kind of, if you will, I've been crocheting a blanket one line at a time in the public realm, and it looks like chaos and it looks disordered. But at the level and the depth at which I have to reach into my physiology to accomplish my day-to-day and live in the narrative that everybody else requires me to live on, for me, this is the best way for me to approach my work. And so the dialogues, the behaviors, the perceptions and reality, if you will, that was promoted in my environment, which then it became like a pattern, like a cycle, like a well-oiled machine in my physiology and the way that I react and respond to things. Did not support the way that my physiology mechanics needed to operate in the reality that I operated around me. And so when I think about how specifically to one scenario in my life, applying for a job, writing a traditional resume per se, how I would have approached that, how I have approached that in the past, is I've seen it as kind of like an approval checklist, as I need to prove that I can do this or that, versus what have I learned that I can contribute to this or that. And that changes what's available to me in my conscious awareness and versus my unconscious awareness, when my nervous system is overstimulated versus when it's calm. And when I don't feel safe and the evidence based on experience is contrary to what I know is safe for me, then my system becomes disordered because it's trying really hard to get my attention. It's trying really hard to process more data, to check the facts if the evidence is something that I can trust or if I need to question myself. And this is where I get a conflict, and this is where power and control dynamics are so challenging to functioning in our society today, because you got to understand, like, this happens in one person, and now this is happening in every single individual at an organizational level, at every level in that organization, because the dynamics and the environment in the world today are just so fiery and spicy and unknown that the nervous system is working extra hard, whether we relate to it well or challenged, or in dire straits, however we relate to it. Ultimately, our mechanics, our body is producing a chemical fuel within us to either allow us to access that conscious data or that data that we've already experienced or not. And so I'm writing my experiential resume, and I am writing it physically before I do anything digitally, because I want to really disrupt the approach to job application, or from job application to role contributions from my physiology perspective, because that works for me. You might have different language, but I wanted to share that. And so my experiential resume communicated in the style of a story told by an undercover Disney princess who I had no idea who she was. Kind of like Anastasia, but the princess's genius rivals that of the philosophers we've heard of and haven't heard of yet. And so I'm taking this storytelling approach to articulating my experience to myself so that I can get all the charge and all the drama and all of the excitement out of it, because that's just a part of my personality. That's where my zone of genius is. But that's not the boardroom zone of genius. That is not my partner's zone of genius when I'm collaborating on a project. It may not be my client's zone of genius. And when I have my coach hat on and I'm in a contract, or I have my employee hat on and I'm in a moment, or I'm with my friends and I feel safe, I have no problem articulating those things. But the moment I wipe myself out with my nerves, then all hell could break loose. I could say anything out of nervous system dysregulation. And not that I'm wrong, or not that I'm trying to be weird, but I can't access the part of my brain that would connect to your mirror neurons to help you understand that, or to my logic that would help me actually communicate the thing I'm trying to communicate to you. Yes. So ultimately, my point of this update and this video is just to guide you in a bit of the process behind the process, to claim that no, I will not stop doing my work every time I record my stuff and it disrupts the powers that be, whoever runs this matrix, and can access my data before I even release my work. So whoever it disrupts and you see and access this, I'm facing my fear of having to go into the clinker again to get away from you assholes so that I can carry on living my life. So I'm gonna post this, not only record this today, but I'm also gonna post this, including my updates of my work, to face my fears of what I've dreamt about and accessed already in my fight, flight, excessive access to data and metadata, because, you know, so many people are hacking me, so they just give me all their shit. So anyways, all of that to say, just your friendly neighborhood heretic here, refusing to take or bow down to the gods of lamotrigine and refusing to be diagnosed in a very patriarchal way for the benefit of power and control dynamics of whoever the hell is in power at this particular juncture. But yeah, okay, so here we go. That's how I'm gonna talk about my experience. I'm gonna take people on a journey in conversations, in my content, in my work, because I recognize that as whoever the fuck you are keeps playing their games and unraveling whatever we understand as the frameworks we've respected historically as society. Because let's be clear, government frameworks, educational frameworks, are not the patriarchy. The patriarchy is an attitude and a pattern of behaviors. So that model, that attitude. And so it's not the frameworks. Like if we hold a couple of bad apples accountable because they believe in this bad attitude, that, by the way, is literally killing your biology. Not ours, not mine. I mean, your rules and your laws are forcing my biology down your path, but they kill your own people and your own offspring because it literally refuses to allow your biology to thrive. I mean, that's not a me problem. But whenever y'all decide that you need me, you're gonna come at approaching my work in different ways. And the truth is that I don't know your biology, so I can't tell you how my work's gonna affect you. I can't tell you that it would be good for you, because I don't know. Many people have been told to lose weight and it almost killed them, because the fat is doing a very important job in the body. That's why the body produces the fat. So there's a lot of humility that is available to us when we acknowledge that we don't know what we don't know, and that we can't actually be in somebody's body, no matter how many times we biohack them and think we know what they know. Read their hearts. I know oh my God, get out of my head. I know what you were thinking. Oh my God, I was just thinking about you and then you called me. No matter how many times you're doing that to people and hacking them so that you have access to their data, you're not processing it the same way they are. So, just saying. All right. And those of you who can read my heart knew exactly what I said right there. And those of you that can read my head, oh, you fucked. Because you know everything. And good luck processing all that data. Okay. So, I want to talk about the language that I used and have used, and the thinking and the narratives that have been perpetuated by society and culture, and the roles that have been allowed to play up till now, both paid and unpaid, and the opportunities available to me. Because I really did used to believe in the meritocracy, but I'm just a privileged Disney princess. Facts. So, when it comes to the work that I'm doing, the areas that I'm covering, which is somatic resonance, which is my trademark modality, somatic astrology, which is also my trademark modality. And how would I classify somatic astrology? It's kind of like medical astrology, except it's based on my philosophy of the somatic body. And medical astrology doesn't yet exist because I don't believe in medicine, so I don't want to go down that path. And good luck to anybody trying to put all of this together from your own experience in your own modality. But I know a lot of you can, because you're able to for your trauma work. But for the purposes of the greedy bitches and assholes in the world, I'm claiming it here on the camera so that this is for perpetuity for your own infrastructures, patriarchs, for your own colonial structures in the legal system. We are all covered, basically, when we can show our experience. So the people that I was trained by are masters in their work, in their fields. They're thought leaders. None of their work is really in the public realm as far as I know, other than the people that have been trained by them or have come up against their work. And I realized this year because I have given away my work for free, probably from a place of deficit more than a place of generosity, if I'm honest. Like training, thinking I'm training. I'm not good enough yet. That was the mindset before. And then I got into corporate and I started working in relationship management. And then I realized that everything that I'd already done was already transferable. I, in fact, had paid to learn the skill of translating my skills that I had learned in one industry into other industries. And so when I think about how we articulate our work, now I'm thinking of my work as prototyping and product development, which is really what it is. So I started in relationship management. I started using those transferable skills. I started actually translating client needs in that relationship management role into technical documents. And we had like technical project managers, but I was basically the business voice. And so I started translating all of that into technical documents. And then I got into IT and started writing actual technical documents. And so it just snowballed from there. And at the same time, I was doing my own inner work and my own healing, which kind of sparked the humanities side of my training, which I actually have a certificate in, or a diploma, whatever they call it from college. I don't even care. I'm in the application process. So I know this means a lot to a lot of people. So I'm not saying that flippantly to be disrespectful, but it's added zero value to my reality and my learning. So my reality has come from real people just kind of doing their everyday job in their experiential life, and me having a learning framework mindset, having been trained very early in childhood through crisis, as well as through deliberate, intentional raising by my family and my caregivers, because I was raised by a lot of people at every stage of my life. And so ultimately, being able to channel that into like a really precise, or communicate that into a precise way of operating. And I just felt myself spin around just as I kind of felt the weight of all of the people around me all the time giving me instructions and directions, and I was like stage managing myself my whole damn life, basically, based on all the directors in my life. And I think that this is what's happening today, right? With social media, this is what Gabor Mate talks about in his book, Hold On to Your Kids. It's like so many outside voices that direct our behaviors that we don't actually get to know ourselves, or know our experience from the lens of our knowledge and understanding. And so when I'm thinking about job application, sorry, I'm just backtracking myself because there's so much, and then there's so much stimulus. And this is neurodivergent processing, right? My nervous system's pretty regulated, but because there's so much excitement in the connections, there's endorphins in actually getting this shit out of my mouth on camera, actually articulating this, that creates kind of a hormone flow. And it's not always like a, when our trauma disrupts us, it's not always a negative thing. Like for me, I'm translating a lot all the time, to English, to Spanish, to the various dialects all the different people speak in my life, because I'm at various levels of translation. So sometimes I am in a boardroom with people who are, showing up because they get paid no matter what they do. Sometimes I'm in a boardroom with people if they don't hang on your every word, their job depends on it. And so the urgency changes for me a lot. And because I am the way that I was raised, in the environment that I was raised, and by the people who I was raised, and in my developmental 0 to 3 especially, I had a lot of attachment ruptures, not by my own doing, not by anybody doing anything wrong per se, but by choices, circumstances, and realities of the time. That's ultimately how I need to look at it from a clinical standpoint. All of those things didn't really allow my nervous system to create the neural connections at a pace that wouldn't then zap me with energy or emotion, if you will. Okay? All right, so let's look at the work.